Chapter 2. The Awakening. The egg was warm to the touch, radiating an energy so intense that it seemed to pulse with life, far beyond anything Haru had ever experienced. As his fingers brushed against its smooth surface, an overwhelming sensation of life force coursed through him. He felt the energy seeping into his body. The energy was very faint but distinct enough for him to notice its presence within him. It felt as though his own life force was being replenished, the energy like nothing he had ever encountered before, as if it was the essence of life itself. For a moment, Haru stood frozen, feeling the vibrations of the egg echo deep within him. The energy from the egg seeped into his core, leaving him trembling, both exhilarated and terrified by its sheer presence. He barely had time to register the magnitude of what was happening when a shadow caught his eye. A group of figures, cloaked in darkness, moved silently among the trees. Their black clothing blended with the shadows of the forest, but Haru could make out the distinct features of the Kage Clan. The clan's operatives, known for their expertise in stealth and manipulation of shadows, had been searching for something. They were combing the forest fast and thoroughly. They were fast approaching him. Haru's instincts screamed at him to run. Without thinking, his body jolted into motion, sprinting as fast as he could, driven by an overwhelming need to escape. The Kage Clan, though formidable, didn't seem to have noticed him yet. As Haru darted through the forest, the figures in the shadows followed, their movements swift and fluid, as if they could sense his presence. Despite their pursuit, Haru found himself at the edge of the forest faster than he expected, his legs carrying him with a speed and precision that stunned him. Gasping for breath, Haru took a moment to collect himself. He looked back, but the Kage Clan was nowhere in sight. He turned around and headed home, his mind still racing. Haru didn't even stop to catch his breath before heading straight to his small, modest house in Swerin district. Haru quickly ascended the stairs to his room, stripping off his clothes and changing into a more inconspicuous outfit, one that wouldn't make him stand out. The last thing he needed was for anyone to notice him. Not after what had just happened in the forest. Seirin Academy was one of the schools in Tokyo, an institution for young warriors. It wasn't just any school, it was a training ground for the future of Japan's powered individuals. The school system had been significantly changed by the government specifically to hone the abilities of students who awakened, as it was noted that powered individuals started manifesting their powers at the age of 14. The 6 powerful clans had a representative at each institution to help guide the young students in their growth, with the eventual goal of absorbing them into their respective clans. But for now, they were only affiliated. Each clan had its own unique traits and specialties. Haru arrived at school. Today, like every weekend, the school grounds were alive with activity. Students from the more prominent clans were training, whether in hand-to-hand combat, practicing elemental control, or honing their unique abilities. It was a common sight for Haru, who watched from the sidelines, unable to participate in the same way. He had been placed within the Koi clan, often considered one of the weakest clans in terms of power. The Koi clan specialized in manipulating water, using fluidity and adaptability to their advantage. However, their abilities were often overshadowed by the other clans, particularly the more aggressive and destructive ones. The Koi clan had never been a part of the main training factions. Their clan was considered too weak to contribute in any significant way. Their training was separate and far more subdued. While the other clans were training with their most powerful abilities, the Koi clan members were taught how to harness and manipulate natural water-based energy, a pale reflection of the power the more dominant clans wielded. As Haru entered the training grounds, he saw the different clan students in action. The atmosphere was electric, filled with the potent energy of those who were honing their craft. There were the Raijin clan students, their lightning-based powers crackling in the air. The flashes of light in their eyes were akin to divine sparks as they practiced swift strikes, weaving through the air like thunderbolts. Not far from them, the Tetsu clan students were engaged in combat training, their physical prowess and strength unmatched. Their metallic enhancements gleamed under the sun, and they were locked in fierce sparring matches. Their powers, derived from their connection to the werewolves, gave them enhanced strength, and their connection to metal made them formidable in close combat. In another corner of the training yard, a group of Koi clan members were meditating by a small pond, their focus on water manipulation. The green hue of their aura signified their connection to the dryads and treants, beings tied to nature and water. They used the flow of the water to enhance their techniques, forming waves or controlling the environment to strike with precision. Power system. Siren Academy ranked its students based on three main factors. Physical abilities test, ranking from S to G, measuring agility, strength, and speed. S. Highest possible physical capabilities, extremely rare. A. Superior physical strength and agility. B. Above average abilities. C. Average abilities. D to G. Low or minimal abilities in physical strength. Power capacity test, numerical rank. G. 1001000. F. 1000 to 5000. E. 5000 to 10,000. D. 10,000 to 20,000. C. 20,000 to 50,000. B. 50,000 to 100,000. A. 100,000 to 250,000. Power potency color test. Each individual's power potency is displayed in the form of a color. Red, demonic races. Gray, werewolves. White, divine beings. Green, dryads and treants, Kage Clan. Golden, spiritual beings. Black, nightcrawlers. Haru's power, though still underdeveloped, had started to show potential. He was placed in the Kage Clan, which, though not without its strengths, was seen as the weakest of the 6 clans. Haru's capacity was a mere 101, a score that put him among the lowest in his class, and his potency, for all its faint radiance, still lacked any significant display of power. Most students affiliated with stronger clans, like the Raijin clan or the Tetsu clan, practiced their powers in ways far more advanced than Haru had ever been able to. At school, the atmosphere was alive with the energy of competition. As always, the strong students trained with their respective clans, refining their abilities in special training programs. Meanwhile, Haru and the other Kage Clan members were left to train in solitude, focusing on basic techniques that still felt underwhelming compared to what the elite students could do. In the school's central courtyard, Haru watched as other students trained in their respective clan styles. The Tetsu clan students practiced their metal-enhanced techniques, their bodies reinforced with mechanical augmentations that made them nearly invulnerable in combat. The Raijin clan students were engaged in high-speed sparring, their lightning powers crackling in the air. The Akuma clan, dark and enigmatic, practiced manipulation of dark energy and fear induction, their students radiating an unsettling aura. Even the Suryu clan's enforcers were here, performing drills with their advanced martial arts and regulation powers. After a long day of watching other students from more powerful clans showcase their abilities, Haru made his way home. His thoughts were still preoccupied with the strange occurrence in the forest and the mysterious egg he had found. He couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed within him. The egg's energy lingered in his mind, its pulsing vibrations still echoing in the back of his thoughts. As he walked through the streets of Suiran district, Haru kept his head down, not wanting to draw attention. His modest clothing and unremarkable appearance were perfect for blending into the crowd. No one could see the power growing within him, not yet. And that's how he preferred it. After all, with his G rank in physical abilities and a measly 101 in power capacity, Haru was considered the lowest of the low at Siren Academy. To be seen as anything else was a far-off dream. When he finally reached his small home, he rushed inside, closing the door quietly behind him. The last thing he needed was to be noticed by anyone. He quickly ascended the stairs to his room and placed the egg, still inside the metallic box, on the small desk beside his bed. Haru didn't even stop to catch his breath. His body felt strange, as if it was both energized and drained at the same time. The encounter with the egg had left him shaken, but there was something else, something he couldn't quite explain, that made him excited. Sitting down in front of the egg, Haru placed his hands on the metallic box, staring at the strange object. He could still feel its faint heartbeat, the gentle thrum of energy that seemed to resonate with his own. He closed his eyes, taking slow, deep breaths. He tried to focus, to center himself and tap into the natural energy that had been flowing through him earlier. There was something there, something deeper than just his own life force. Haru tried to remember the techniques he had learned from the Kage Clan, the basic methods for gathering energy from nature. His powers had always been weak, almost non-existent, but he had felt the energy before, just a hint of it. Now, he focused on that sensation. As he did, he felt it again, the faint pulse of the egg's energy mixing with his own. It was so subtle, so faint, that it was hard to distinguish. But it was there. Suddenly, Haru's mind snapped. How had he not been caught? The average Kage Clan operative would probably be E rank, maybe even D rank, and yet Haru had outrun them without even realizing it. How had he made it back to the edge of the forest so quickly? He had been so deep in the woods, almost to the other end of it. No one could run like that, even with adrenaline pumping through their veins. As Haru lay there, drowsy and on the verge of sleep, a realization hit him with startling clarity. So that was it, he shouted aloud. He had been carrying the egg the entire time, and more importantly, he could no longer hear its heartbeat. His own heartbeat had synchronized with the egg's. For a brief instant, it had felt as though they shared a life force. Definitely, that was the egg's energy, he thought. The two had been in sync for that short moment, almost as if there were no distinction between his life force and that of the egg. Haru pulled the metallic box containing the egg from his drawer. It had been hastily shoved into his father's old clothing and mementos, a combination of personal belongings he had kept as a tribute to his father. He hadn't even stopped to properly store it earlier when he had rushed out of the house. The egg's heartbeat still resonated in the box, each beat radiating energy, its presence growing stronger with each thrum. Haru carefully held the egg in front of him, trying to recreate the moment from earlier. He focused hard, willing the energy to respond, but nothing happened. He tried several times, shifting his stance and posture, but there was no reaction. Frustrated, he almost gave up. But then he remembered the Kage Clan's techniques for gathering energy from nature. He decided to try it. For the first time, Haru felt nature's energy flow more clearly than before. He could feel it not just surrounding him, but moving through him. The egg's energy was present, and it was more radiant than ever. Haru could sense both energies, his own and the egg's, distinct from each other, yet connected in a way that was almost tangible. Was his body finally shedding its limitations? Had he truly moved beyond the confines of his G rank? He wondered if this was the moment when he would emerge from his cocoon and transform into something more. The egg's energy was faint and difficult to trace. He could feel it, but it was so subtle that it was almost invisible to him. Unlike his own blood flow, which he could follow easily, the egg's energy seemed distant and elusive. He could barely absorb any of it, but it was there, lingering like a whisper in his body. Ecstatic, Haru continued his efforts to absorb both the natural and egg energies. He settled into a meditation stance, closing his eyes and focusing intently on the energies flowing through him. Hours passed, and he remained like that, the egg still before him, glowing faintly with each pulse. His mind drifted, and his body relaxed in the stillness. Haru looked almost as if he were praying to the egg, as if he were communicating with it, or perhaps revering it. In that moment, Haru wasn't just meditating. He was connecting with something far greater than himself. End of Chapter 2.